Well, good morning, everyone. It is great to have you here. Those in person watching online, my name is Nick. I'm one of the pastors. We are blessed to have with us Aaron and Jaimie Smith. Thanks for being with us today. So good to have you here. And real quick, before we jump into our conversation today, I just want to mention, if you are a guest with us, we are so grateful. There's a blue card in the seat in front of you. You can grab that and fill that out and stop by our Connect Hub out in the middle of the foyer, and we'd love to just connect with you. But if you're a guest or if you've been a guest the last few weeks, we have something after service today we call Coffee with the Pastors, which is a great opportunity to get to connect with some of our pastors, hear about our church in a brief, it's not a long, drawn-out thing, but just a brief opportunity to kind of connect and hear a little about who we are. And if you'd like to be part of that, it's going to be right after service to my right, your left, over in the East Room right here under the East balcony. And you can be part of that. Just hang around for a little bit, and then you can go grab lunch. So we'd love to meet you if you have been a guest with us. It'd be a great opportunity. So Aaron, Jaimie, thank you for making the drive all the way out to Westmoreland County.
Sure.
You know, it's a long haul, isn't it? Not really.
No.
So thank you for being with us today. We're just so honored to get to hear your story and like how God has used you and how He's moved in your life. So kind of start off, Aaron. We know you played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a pretty big thing. Chosen as all-decade team in the 2000s by Sports Illustrated. 2 Super Bowl rings, Ring of Honor, all of those things, which is pretty cool. But you're a person, and you have a real family, right? Sometimes we think athletes are like these superhuman, like they're not normal or regular. But you're just a regular guy.
Yeah.
Kind of.
With some amazing talents, right? So tell us a little bit, first off, about your upbringing. Like, how did kind of your early years start to shape you?
So I grew up in Colorado. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. My dad was a drywaller, construction worker. My mom was a nurse. We didn't have much money. We lived in trailer court to trailer court for most of my childhood. And then, my dad honestly was not a very kind man. I didn't realize at the time, as a small child, that he'd become diabetic, and he didn't take care of himself, and it kind of had turned him bitter and angry. So he was physically and verbally abusive, controlling. I did anything I could to stay out of the house. That was kind of the reason I discovered sports, was just because I didn't have to be home at the time. And then, as we grew, it became harder and harder because we started to become men, and he started to lose more control. But one of my most vivid memories, just to give you a perspective of my childhood, is I would always, about very young, I would go tell my dad, "Good night, I love you," every night, which I really didn't want to, but I figured if he decided, honestly, to kill the whole family that night, then maybe he would let me live, because I was the last one that told him I love you. And I would sleep with a baseball bat in my bed, just in case. But right around 12, my mom decided to finally leave my dad. My dad had kicked my oldest brother out, and he was on his way kicking my second oldest brother out, and it was basically just 2 of us, and I was 12 years old. And my mom came to us and called my oldest brother and said, "You need to come, I'm leaving your father. You need to come get all the firearms out of the house." And this is, at the time, my brother came, took the firearms out the house, and when my mom delivered the message to him, it had to be by the grace of God, because he just sat there quietly and accepted it. That being said, throughout that childhood, my mom, we would go to church, even with my father at the time, and she would take us to church, and my dad would go with us once in a while, and he would be a completely different person when he was in church. He was this guy, nice guy, greeting everybody, shaking everybody's hands. So it kind of turned me off a little bit to the idea of church, because he was so fake when we were there, and then I'm like, this isn't real, and all these people think this is all fake,
It's just a show.
It is a show when he showed up, and he was a completely different person. So we left my father when I was 12, and at that time, my mom moved, but we didn't tell him where we moved. And so we moved to, it's funny, we were getting away from my father, but we moved into the trailer court next to him. There's 2 trailer courts.
Really far. You got
She just didn't have the means to do it, but I look back at this as kind of comical. Like, we're leaving him, but we're going to move to the trailer court right next to him. And so I would avoid him and do anything. I had to walk home from school, and I would go any way I could to avoid going by his place for fear of seeing him. And then at 12, was basically me, my mom, and my brother was the closest to me. The 2 older brothers had moved out. And my mom, I give her a lot of credit. She got 4 boys, and she made them go to church, learn the faith. And she said, we're going to go to church on Wednesdays because she couldn't take me on Sundays. And so she dragged me to this Wednesday evening service as a 12-year-old boy, and was the last thing. I didn't want to go to youth group because I thought that was not for me. And so she dragged me in this church service on Wednesday night with the pastor. And I'm like, I'm not going to listen to this stupid pastor guy talk. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to just do my own thing and read the Bible. So I sat in the pews while the guy gave the message, and I read the Bible. And the funny thing is I started as a 12-year-old boy with Revelations, which I would tell you, if you start reading the Bible, it's not where you start. It's confusing enough when you've read the Bible. But it was intriguing to me, and I read it. And within a couple months, I came to my mom. I said, listen, I want to accept Christ and be baptized. And that's kind of how I came to my salvation. It's through that time. And then from then on, we were moving forward.
That's pretty cool. So at 16, your dad passed away.
Yeah, so at 16, life was good. I was really into sports. I was very successful, football and basketball. And then I was in school, and I got called to the office. And me and Jaimie were talking last night. I said, the funny thing is when I got called to the office, I was thinking, oh man, what'd I do? Like, they got me. I'm trying to go through all the stuff, like, what did I do? And I remember that I walked down, and I walked into the office, and my mom was crying. And so she was crying, and she said, your dad passed away last night of a heart attack. And so my world kind of came crashing down at that moment. And I was angry and bitter for 2 reasons. One, that my dad was dead. And one, that the Lord gave me the father he gave me, which I didn't appreciate. And then he took the one father I had taken away from me. And so I kind of went on a self-destruct mode as a 16-year-old. Stopped caring about school, stopped caring about anything. I really stopped caring about my faith. I figured, what's the point? We're all just going to die, and it's all going to be for nothing anyway. All this is pointless. Went to my mom, told her I was going to drop out of school. I didn't want to be in school anymore. She pushed me through. And I was blessed, honestly. I had high school coaches at the time in the public school that were Christian men. They really took an interest in me and really kind of pushed me along to get to where I am now. And honestly, my high school basketball coach was probably the closest thing to a father figure I had. I took him to both Super Bowls. I talked to him probably once a week to this day. And he's really the reason that kind of got me out. He's like, just keep going forward, and challenged me when I needed to be challenged as a young man.
Which is interesting, he was your basketball coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So through high school, sports are kind of ramping up for you. What did that lead to? Like, how did you end up playing football? It's your basketball coach that was really so influential in your life.
So I actually was a basketball guy first. I didn't even play football my sophomore year in high school. I was my first love. My basketball coach was the one that encouraged me to play football. He said, you could be pretty good, and I happened to be pretty good. And then I wound up playing both my junior year and making All-State in both sports. But basketball was my first love. I didn't really love football until college. I just happened to be good at it at the time. So when it came time to choose, colleges were coming around and they're starting to be interested. It came time to choose. I had to make a decision, and he was as a man or as a coach or someone of influence, kids can tell if you're in it for your own good or if you're in it for their good. And I knew he was always invested in me for my benefit, just through our relationship we had had. And he came to me and said, listen, you can go on to play college basketball and have a nice college career, but honestly, you can go play college football and you're pretty unique. And the other one is there's 5 starters on basketball, there's 22 starters in football. Like, you do the numbers games, and he's the reason I actually kind of chose football, was my high school basketball coach, which speaks volumes for him because it did not benefit him to have me go play college football. It benefited me, but that honesty and that relationship that we had where he had poured into me is why I was open to and receptive to what he had to say.
It's pretty cool. So you graduate high school, you're getting recruited, you end up at Northern Colorado, right? What was that experience like, walking into college sports and just college in general? It
was hard. So I was a basketball kid. I never touched a weight in high school. I never even trained football. All I did in the off season was play basketball. And so when I got to college, I was 205 pounds, same height. I was a basketball kid.
You're pretty thin.
Yeah, I was a basketball kid. So they redshirted me, and I got demolished every day. And I was lucky. The two guys we had at tackles were pro tackles, so they just destroyed me. So the learning curve was quick. I get to college, and I redshirt. The next year I start at defensive end, and then the next year we win. It was a Division II school at the time. The next year we win the national championship, and then my junior year we win the national championship. So, and then I became an All-American, and things just started to blossom.
Took off.
Yeah.
Something really big happened at Northern Colorado. That's when you met Jaimie, right? So
Biggest thing in my life.
Yes.
Jaimie, how did you meet Aaron? Like, how did you get to know
So
him?
we met our 4th year at the university. We were there 5 years. I had transferred from a different university just across the way after my freshman year. So our 4th year there, all my friends had already graduated, and I needed a new roommate. And we were out one night, and she had been a freshman there when he was a freshman, and she introduced us. And then the rest is history. We hit it off right away. But the funny thing is, well, I had never been to any sporting events at our college. We just ran in separate
So you're in your
circles.
5th year. You haven't been to any sporting events? or
Right.
anything?
Well, it was our 4th year there.
Fourth year, sorry.
I hadn't been to any sporting events at our university, just didn't pay any mind to them at all. And then come to find out later, when his mom had opened up her memorabilia box, he was like on the cover of every newspaper from our university. They won national championships. I had no idea.
You didn't even know that happened.
No.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was a big deal.
No idea. Maybe if I had went to school there my freshman year, I would have known. I don't know, maybe not. So then we start dating, and then our 5th year, I did go to a couple football games, maybe only 2.
But you initially, I thought, initially you thought he was a basketball player.
Oh,
right?
yes, yeah. When we first met, I saw him out over there, and I was like, oh, look at this guy, nice and tall. I think he's basketball, because I also loved basketball and played basketball just when I was in college. But yeah, I was like, ooh, he for sure plays basketball. Yeah. And then when I found out that he played football, I was quite disappointed, because I had this idea of football players on college campuses, which is kind of true. That's kind of what they are, right? They get a lot of privilege, and they don't really care about school and all of the things that you kind of think that they are. And so I was like, oh, well, that's okay. And then we started talking, and
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. So as you win a national championship, all that. What point, Aaron, did NFL seem like it was an option even? Like,
So, I honestly, I think from the time I was a small child, I always thought I always wanted to be a professional athlete. Like, I played every sport growing up, so that was kind of like, I always wanted to be that. Now, as I aged and I got to college, did I think it was a possibility? It really didn't hit home until my junior year. Like, after we won that second national championship, and the scouts come around and they start to see guys, and now they're looking at me and talking to me. That's when it kind of became a reality for me, is when those guys start to have interest in you. And then the agents start coming, and the financial guys, and everybody starts trying to reach out and get in contact. Now you know you're going to be there. I really think it's funniest one is when a scout for the Giants asked me one time, what do you want to do in the NFL? I said, listen, my goal is to get to the NFL, play 3 years. I'll probably play special teams, because this is just kind of my perspective. I'll probably play special teams, save some money. I just don't want to have to worry about bills, because of my childhood. I just don't want to worry about bills. I want to have enough money that I can just pay my bills on time. And he looked at me. I thought it was funny at the time. He looked at me and laughed. He's like, oh, you're going to be fine. But that was my perspective. I'm just going to go get some money and make some money and then get on with my life. And he's like, you're going to be fine. And then moved on.
So how do you navigate that? It's like, you're not prepared for all of that coming your way as a young kid.
You're not, and it's kind of crazy now with what I watch now with the NIL and stuff. But the thing about it is especially if you come from my background, you really don't understand a lot of those things because you haven't been exposed to it. So, like, to navigate and try to figure out who's good and who's bad is hard, because they all show up with fancy ties and they all talk sophisticated. You don't know one guy from the next, and so you kind of just go with the guy. I honestly went with a guy that was a year older than me. They had used his agent, And from my school, a friend of mine used the same agent and the same financial guy just because that's who he recommended. I couldn't navigate it.
It was trusted. You had good recommendation. Yeah, that's good. So, Aaron, you grew up as a kid. Even you had some experience with church and with God. For you, Jaimie, as you guys are in college, where was your faith? Like, where was that kind of for you?
So I grew up in a small town in a Catholic church, and my grandmother and grandfather were a huge part of church, just helping out and leading worship. And but my personal family, we kind of just went on the weekends or went to catechism. And so then when I met Aaron, who grew up in a Christian church, we had very different views on a lot of stuff. And so anytime we talked about theology, anything, sin, especially the Old Testament, we would end up in big arguments.
I love. Yeah, I heard you mention one time you got in a big argument your first date.
First date, yeah. So the first date, so I picked this pretty woman up on my first date. We go to eat pizza, and we're driving to the movie theater, and somehow I don't know the conversation started, but then we're talking about sin. I don't remember how it started, and she said something, and I'm like, no, that's not the way it is. Sin is sin. I said, a serial killer's sin is the same as a prostitute's sin, and she got so mad. And I'm like, no, that's not the way it is. It's all sin. And so we went around. Now, you got to remember this. How dumb am I? Like my first date with a pretty lady. And this is the conversation that I'm having? And so we were in the car. I'll never forget it, that we had that and how mad. And then we just kind of it just died. And then we kept going on the date.
Wow. And it's worked out.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was God for sure to have that conversation on your first date, and here we are, 25 years of marriage.
So you guys, things are going, at Northern Colorado, and draft day comes around for NFL. And Aaron, you get drafted in the 4th round by the Steelers. Were you excited to be drafted by the Steelers? Like, how did that unfold? So
the draft, it's funny because, I always tell people, when you get ready for the draft, everybody watches the combine. It's all publicized now so much, but the combine, the draft, it's such a big deal. And it's not fun. For the athletes, it's not fun. It's stress. I tell people, think about this. In essence, for me, I was a small child when I made this choice that I want to be a professional athlete. So I worked all my life up to 4 years old, and this is my one job interview. And you only get one job interview. That's it. It's not like I decided to have this job when I was in college, and I'm like, oh, I want to be this guy 2 years ago, and now I'm going to go try to get this. This is my whole life has been working towards this goal, and you have one opportunity, and this is it, and you don't know if you're going to make it or not. So the stress, you get poked and prodded, and you get tested all nonstop. And then so the draft comes, which is supposed to be a celebration, right? You're excited. I've been told I'm going to go from 1st to 7th round all the way in there. So we drive down to my mom's house, and we're down there. And back then, the draft was 2 days. They had the first day and the second day. So the first day, I think I might go in the first round. First round goes through. We're at my mom's house. Nothing. Long day. Second round goes through. Third round comes, and get to the very last pick. The Steelers had 3 picks on the third round that year. They get to the very last pick of the day. So I've watched TV all day. This is at night. And the phone rings on the last pick, and it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they say, hey, Aaron, how's it going? This and this and this. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, have you heard from anybody? I'm like, no I haven't heard from anybody. I'm like, take me, super excited. And they're like, okay, well, we'll give you a call back. So I hang up the phone, and I walk out to the living room, my mom's house, and they select Amos Zeraway from West Virginia. And I was devastated. If you ever seen a 24-year-old football grown man weep like a baby and cry, I was crying and destroyed. So
how many Super Bowl rings does Amos Zeraway have?
0. 0. Yeah. Well, I've gotten over it since. And so that night I don't sleep much. Jaimie's there. She did a great job of consoling me and trying to make me feel better and this and this. So the next morning we wake up, and the next day starts early, 9, that's Colorado time, 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So we wake up, and the 109th pick, isn't that crazy? I remember this pick. I will never forget the number. The 109th pick comes up, and it's the Pittsburgh Steelers again. And so they're like, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. And so then the phone rings. And they're like, hey, Aaron, it's Pittsburgh Steelers. We're just calling it. And I'm thinking, you're not getting me again, guys. I'm not falling for this. And so we're on the phone for a little bit, and they're like, hold on, Coach Cowher wants to talk to you. And he gets on the phone, and he goes, welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they announce me. And so it's kind of like my lowest point to the highest point.
Pretty wild. What were your emotions like with all of that? I mean, you walked through so much in your life after this. Like, what were all the emotions kind of you feeling in that moment?
I think I was excited. I think I was nervous because you really don't know. Like, you don't know if you're ready for it, if you're good enough. You have those doubts, but I was so excited for the opportunity. And I was excited for the financial opportunities that were going to come with that, to have some money and be able to do some things that we had never experienced before.
And the Steelers weren't even on your radar.
No, they had come to one. I'd done one interview with them at the Combine, and I talked to Cowher, and they had never really shown any interest. I had no clue. The funniest is there's a picture of me and my 4 brothers, and I'm wearing a Pittsburgh Steelers like 1970s jumpsuit that says Pittsburgh Steelers. My brother's wearing the Steelers, and then the other 2 have Cowboys, which is ironic, you know.
But you were a Steelers fan before any of this ever happened.
What's that?
Before any of that ever happened, you were a Steelers fan. To some
Yeah.
extent.
I was a huge Kevin Green fan, to be honest with you. Actually, one of my gifts from my best friend in like 9th grade was a 8x10 of Kevin Green, like you can buy at the shop, and that was my guy.
Pretty cool. It's completely unrelated. Next week's the draft here in Pittsburgh. Who do you think the Steelers are going to pick? Top 3.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys.
Any
I
thoughts?
don't really watch a lot of football
okay.
or
That's
pay
all right.
attention to it a lot. I'm so busy, but in my opinion,
What about position?
Well, my opinion, and this is just me in general, we've got to get a good O-line and a good D-line. Because in football, if you don't have a good O-line and D-line, I don't care who you have. You could have Tom Brady, Marshall Faulk, Randy Moss. If they don't have the guys up front to do it, it doesn't matter. You can't do anything without the front line, O-line, and D-line. So they need to figure out how to fix that because that's what they've struggled for so long.
That's good. So Jaimie, kind of back to you. So you guys, you moved to Pittsburgh, and you're here for him, right? You guys aren't from Pittsburgh. You're from Colorado. You don't know a soul. He gets to go, practice, play. He has teammates. It's like built in. What about you? Like, what did you do? Like, that had to have been just really difficult getting dropped into a new city like Pittsburgh, which is awesome, but different.
Very different from Colorado.
Very different. And you didn't know a soul. Like,
No.
What was
So-
that time like for you?
I was excited at first because, we were both here in a new city. Nobody had ever left Colorado. Our family, our friends, for a handful of generations. For me, everybody was there. And I was very excited at first, but then he was just started to be exhausted and mentally just not like there at home. It was a long rookie year for sure, the first few weeks. So he says, we had a discussion about me moving back to Colorado. I kind of remember that, but I don't really remember a ton. But what I do remember is he brought home a handful of papers from his locker, which was rare. So back in those days, they just handed handouts for the guys. I don't really know what all the papers were. But in this particular pile of papers, there was a list of Bible studies, a women's Bible study, a couple's Bible study, and a men's Bible study. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, this sounds great. This will be an opportunity to go to a history Bible class and and meet some girls. And so I did that, and I did meet girls, but it wasn't a history class about the Bible. It was a Bible study, which I didn't know what a Bible study was growing up in the Catholic Church.
You had no experience with that
No
at all.
experience with kind of the classic things that Christians grow up with. And within a couple weeks, I had a new understanding, stuff that I had never learned before about a relationship with Jesus, just who he was and what he was. And so I would go home to him, and he helped me with the Bible study because he knew all of it. And I was like, what does the Savior mean? Like, what? I didn't even really, I'm sure I heard the word Savior. I grew up going to church, but it was very different. And So yeah, within a few weeks, I surrendered my life to Christ, and then I'm like, okay, now we're going to these couples Bible studies with the team, and
Which sounded awesome.
it sounded
to
so awesome for
Aaron.
him. He did not want to go.
No.
But then I used it as a date night. We would go out to eat afterwards. And so it was kind of like our date night. Go to Bible study, and then we can go out to eat.
Because people don't understand how exhausting it is to be a professional athlete, and your rookie year had its challenges. Like, what were those challenges like for you?
So, I mean, I don't know, most people probably don't even know this. I only played 9 snaps my rookie year in the entire season. I was inactive probably for half the season. And on top of that, when I got there,
That's 9 snaps the whole season.
The whole
not
season.
One game.
The whole season I played 9 snaps. But my D-line coach, and I tell you this, I love him to this day. But he's an old school guy that played for Bear Bryant and coached for Bear Bryant, and then he comes here. He would say things to me I didn't know you could say to another man and get away with. Like it just was that kind of level of pressure and intensity, to the point where the man, I'm 24 years old, if he was coming down the hallway I'm a rookie, and I was in the hallway and he started to come, I'm looking for rooms to hide in. That's how, I'm not lying. I would try to avoid him. Is he in this room? Is he eating in the cafeteria? So it just was a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. And I was exhausted and I was invested. And when she went to the Bible study, it's funny. I really was bitter at the Lord still. My faith was not there at this time. I'm in the NFL. I didn't love the Lord. I wasn't living for the Lord. And she goes to this Bible study, and like she said, I was miserable, and she had no social network, no friends, and she was kind of miserable, right? So now I would come home, and we're both kind of not happy, and I literally told her, I'm like, how about you go home to Colorado, and I'll meet back up with you after the season so you can go back with your family and your friends. And then she went to this Bible study. And within 2 weeks, guys, and she accepts Christ, and within 2 weeks, and I'm doing the Bible studies, there's such a transformation in the way she was. And it was completely like a 180 turn. The joy that she had and the day-to-day things that I was like, oh, there is something to this. That's really the only reason people ask me what brought me back to my faith, was the way I saw her transform. And I was like, wow. Jesus made such a difference in her, I want that. I want what she has, because it's changed her so much.
So you guys start going to this group together. How did that work as a couple?
I'll tell you, I did the man thing. All you men in here and husbands and stuff, I did the classic man thing. When we don't want to go someplace or do something that our wives want to do, we make it miserable. We complain about this, we complain about the food, why we have to go, all that. We just make everybody miserable. And I did my best I possibly could to make it as miserable that maybe she'd be like, it's just not worth it.
But it was worth it to me, because I honestly didn't care, because I was so excited to meet the girls, and so excited to learn more and just be in that environment, that I really was just like, whatever.
We're going to keep doing it whether you like it or not.
I'm going, and it didn't bother me at all. Still doesn't when he acts like that.
So things progressed through your season, your career, Aaron. You ended up winning 2 Super Bowls, 2005, 2008. Before we get too much further, 2008 was like a really cool Super Bowl. You're on the sideline when this happens, but what was it like watching James Harrison? He was your teammate. You're on defense together. What was it like his play? The interception.
So 2008, I was playing. 2010,
you were playing.
I was hurt
10.
in 2010.
10, sorry.
2008, I was actually on the field with James
okay.
Harrison. So we were on the field, and I can tell you, I remember it like yesterday. So the play before that, they throw a pass, I run over, we hit the guy, and I'm thinking, man, that really hurt my neck when I hit him. I walked back to the huddle, and they're about to go in the thing, and then they run the play, and James intercepts the ball, and so the rule is I'm on the opposite side of James. And so when James starts to run, I block the guy closest to me. And then I'm thinking we're almost done in this half. I'm gassed because they've already marched this ball, and I haven't come off the field. I'm tired. And he starts to run, and he breaks another tackle and then another block. And then I'm running, and then he's probably maybe 20, 30 yards in front of me, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm not going to catch him. I know who I am. I know who James is, and I know everybody else chasing him. I'm not going to catch that guy. And then the rule is you never block behind the ball. So I actually stopped. Everybody else started running, but I'm like, I'm not getting involved because I don't want to be the guy who gets the flag. But when he ran that play, I would tell you it's the greatest, and this is, I'm biased, but it's the greatest team football play in football history. Like, if you look at how many guys helped to make that happen, it wasn't just one guy.
There was a lot of blocks. I mean, it's
100 yards.
100 yards.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. That's pretty incredible. So you as your career is progressing there at that time, you're starting to get a lot of injuries. Like, things are...
Yeah, I started to get older, so I had tore my bicep. The years start to blur. I can't even tell you what years. We were trying to go through this last night. I had tore my bicep. I tore my rotator cuff, tore my tricep. And honestly, the end of my career was fusing my neck at C3 and C4. So yeah, I had, as you get older, the human body can only take so much beating.
So as things are kind of progressing for you physically, at home, things are starting to change a little bit. And Jaimie, I want to ask you this. That year, 2008, was a big year for you guys. It wasn't just the Super Bowl, it wasn't just the injuries, but something else happened. Can you tell us a little bit about what was happening there at home?
In 2008, at this point, this was your 9th year of football.
Yeah.
And we had 4 kids. So we had a newborn. Well, at this point that I'm getting to, she was 4 months old, and then we had a 2-year-old. So 2 little girls, and then a son, Elijah, who was 4 and a half, and then our oldest was 6. So
4 little kids.
4 little kids. And 2 years before that, Aaron's mom moved out to Pittsburgh, so we also had her living kind of in our backyard, and so it was...
She had a house, just so you know. She wasn't living in the backyard. I'm sorry. She said that. I'm like, that can be taken out of context.
You gave her a tent.
Yeah. That's all right. I'm sorry.
It's actually, there's so many neat stories leading up to this moment of how the Lord just prepared so much for us. And that was one of them. Because there was this little house for sale kind of in our backyard. It was our backyard, but it was the front yard of this other house, and that's where she lived. And so she had been in Pittsburgh for 2 years at this point. And so it was October. We had 4 little kids, and they all got sick. And then the girls got better, and Elijah he's our son who was 4 and a half. He got a little bit better, but then he got worse again, and he had a fever. And so knowing a little bit, being a young parent, I knew that if your child gets better but then gets worse again, they need to go back to the doctor. And so Aaron had 1 day off a week during the football season, and it was Tuesday. And it happened to be a Tuesday, and I'm like, perfect, you can run Elijah to the doctor. So I called him, like, hey, he's has a fever again. And so I was like, okay, you're taking him. I have 3 little girls. And so Aaron took Elijah to the doctor that afternoon, and he came back and he said, well, the doctor wants us to get his heart checked. He wants us to take him down to Children's for an EKG to make sure everything's okay, because he has maybe a heart murmur that he didn't have when they checked him a week ago. And so I was like, well, it doesn't really sound urgent with the fact that you're here right now. If it was urgent, they would have sent you, right? So I was like, well, okay, you're off from work today, we can go. So his mom came over, and I had a 4-month-old, so I could be gone for a little while, but not that long. And so we went to Children's to get an EKG. Hey, we're here for an EKG. Elijah was bouncing around. He didn't seem like a sick little boy, but the pediatrician said we needed to get this done. And so that's what was going on.
So you walk in, you get the EKG, and you're in the hospital room, and things are not going like as smoothly as you thought they would go.
Correct.
So we were, at the time, it was Oakland Old Children's Hospital. And if you've ever been there, it was hard to get into as the city and park. But then the waiting room was just ridiculous. Like we were in this waiting room, and it was probably, it was packed. It was packed. There was no seats really And so we were waiting for how long? A couple hours.
Couple hours, and I'm like, I need to get back to this baby. It's late. You have to go to work tomorrow. Our oldest needed to go to school. Elijah probably had preschool the next day, and I'm like, let's just leave this.
Yeah, she's like, look at him.
The pediatrician didn't say this is urgent. We
She's
just
like-
are going to do this another day.
She's like, look at him. He's bouncing around. He looks fine. So we're like, all right, let's just go. We can come back tomorrow, whatever. This is ridiculous. We've been here for 2 hours. And so we go to, this is a crazy, it's to this day it's still, we go to stand up, put our jackets on. We're putting Elijah's jacket on, and the door opens, and they say, Elijah Smith. Elijah Smith. So we're like, we both look at each other like, that wasn't coincidence. Like the timing of it was like, we both look at each other like what in the world? Like 2 seconds later, we're probably out the door. And so then we go back.
So we go back, and we have two young nurses. They seem like, little high school girls. Now looking back, they probably weren't, obviously. And they're like, we're gonna draw some blood. And I'm like, oh gosh, we are not here for that. We're here for an EKG. We just need to get this EKG and go home. I have kids at home I need to get to. And she's like, well, the order says blood work. And I'm just like, okay, fine. And so they go to draw his blood, and blood shoots everywhere. And we've never had blood drawn on a child before, so I looked at the nurses and I'm like, is that supposed to happen? That doesn't seem normal. And they did not make any eye contact with us. They just looked down and kind of frantically started cleaning him up. And they're like, well, that can happen. Now, knowing what I know, that's absolutely not normal, and that really should not happen. And so they clean him up and they leave. And next thing I know, they're like, oh, we're taking you back to this room. And I'm like, okay, are we getting the EKG? Because we really have to go. And so we're back in a room, and it was probably within 5 minutes a doctor came in. So we never ended up getting the EKG. And this very young doctor walks in.
The doctor walks in, and we're like, you gotta understand, like she said, we have kids. Like we're like, let's go home. It's like 11 o'clock at night, maybe 12. I don't even remember what time.
It was late.
It was late, and we're like, the doctor walks in. He looks like Doogie Howser, like. I love him I love this man, but he has these little glasses. I don't know if he still can grow a beard, to be honest with you. Like he's 5'5", got this funny little children's tie. Like I'm like, this is the doctor? Well, first of all, they said the hemonc doctor's coming down. I'm like, hemonc? What? I don't even know what hemonc doctor is. Like, that's crazy. And so he comes down and he starts to talk. And he says, I don't know how much you know about leukemia. And I literally, at that moment, I will never forget this. I thought I was going to puke right there on the floor. And I don't even know what leukemia is, guys. I just know it's bad. That's honestly, at that time in my life, I didn't have any clue what it was. I just knew in my mind it might be a death sentence. And I thought I was going to puke right there on the floor. And I look at him, and I'm like, oh, are you sure it's not a virus? Like we all try to do, as parents. And he was very gracious. He says, in my professional opinion, I think it's leukemia. So we're going to run some more tests and stuff.
So he says at that moment, I looked under the microscope and I see leukemia cells, but we're running the blood through the lab, and we need to admit him, and we need to give him a blood transfusion because his platelets are so low, we can't do any testing on him. That's why the blood went everywhere, because he had no platelets. And we need to do a bone marrow test. And this is all going to happen
3 days.
Right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he says that, and then he said that within 30 seconds. He said all of that so fast.
It's
and
a
so
lot to process.
I excused myself, and I went to the restroom, and I called a friend of mine that I've had for years and told her what he told me within 5 seconds, and she said, hold your thoughts captive. And I knew what that verse was just from being it felt like a new Christian now, but looking back, I didn't feel like I was a new Christian. I'd been a Christian for 8 years, and I walked back into the room, and the doctor walked in with paperwork so that we could sign off for this blood transfusion. There was no blood there yet, and I knew I needed to leave to get home to the baby. who is now pushing hours of being with my mother-in-law. So in that moment, I knew that we had no control over anything.
Which was so, so hard. Those first few days, I mean, it's middle of the season for you. You've got a newborn. What were those first few days like?
It was brutal. So the way it goes is I think it was probably midnight. She leaves. The next morning, he gets platelets. They give him antibiotics because he obviously has some infection. They don't know what's causing the fever and stuff because some infection, but he can't fight it. So he gets on a medicine, an antibiotic, and then the next morning they do a bone marrow test, which is not an enjoyable thing for parents. You sit there. So they do the bone marrow test, and then the next day after the bone marrow test, they do the port, and then they do the chemo. So within 3 days, you have transfusion, bone marrow test, and port and chemo within 3 days. 3 days, I mean, it's boom, 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 boom.
That's so hard for you guys to handle. How did Elijah handle it? He's a 4-year-old. How does he respond to that kind of information, experience?
Well, he handled it. It's just really a testament of how the Lord prepared him as well as us. It's not his personality. He's a very laid back kid and man now. But leading up to this point, he was growing up in a Christian household. He'd been to his little Bible study at church, and I would take him to another Bible study that I was in. So he knew the promises of the Lord. He knew a lot at 4.5, but he also had a craving for the Lord and the word of the Lord, that at night when we would do our little devotionals, he would ask Aaron to read him war stories, Bible stories. He wanted all the stories about all the weapons and all the war and all the battles. And
he was a good boy.
He was. And I was a new Christian. I didn't know a lot about the Old Testament. I mean, I could have found the stories, sure, but Aaron had the knowledge and the wisdom of what to read and where to read them, and they would read Old Testament stories about all the battles. And so he knew the promises. He knew about victory. He knew that God had already won the battles, and that truth just was over him, and that's kind of how he was in the hospital. I mean, looking back, yeah, it was hard on his body physically, but the mindset that this little 4.5-year-old, and he did 3.5 years of chemo, and then it didn't end there. He continued to have to go to the doctor to be checked all the time until he was 18. But the Lord did really prepare him, just gave him a fire for wanting to know the promises of the Lord.
That's amazing. So for you, Aaron, you're in the middle of the season. What do you do? How do you?
So the first week, I didn't leave the hospital. I slept there. We were blessed with the community that we had formed in this Bible study group. So they were fantastic. When all this came, they packed our family up, and they moved them to downtown Oakland and put us in this Hampton Inn, and then somehow they navigated, these are our friends from our small group, somehow they navigated to steal the rollaway bed from Hampton Inn and brought it to the hospital. So I was sleeping on
that
this.
That was actually one, so we had some friends, Bible study with the Stillers, and then a community of friends. So our friend Amy, who her husband played, she knew what these guys needed. They're large, they're big, and they're exhausted physically, and so she knew he needed a bed. So she got that bed from the hotel and wheeled it up the hill.
I mean, this is huge rollaway bed. She brought it all the way up
cots. It's like the full-size mattress on wheels. She rolled it in. She got permission to bring this thing into the hospital, and that's what he slept on during the week.
But I slept there for an entire week. I couldn't tell you, honestly, I didn't leave the hospital. That week, I couldn't tell you if it was sunny, if it was cloudy, it was rainy, but to me, it felt like nothing but doom and gloom, cloudiness, and rain all week. And it might have been 90 degrees, I don't know. But it's just the way the world felt to me at that point. And then periodically, there was times we played Indianapolis. He had to go to hospital at times with fevers and stuff. So we had to play Indianapolis. So he gets admitted to the hospital. He has an infection of some sort, and I slept on the rollway, and then we had to play Indianapolis. So I jumped in the minivan, drove to the stadium, played Indianapolis Colts, sacked Peyton Manning.
Well done.
Got back after the game over, got in the minivan and drove back to the Children's Hospital and slept on the floor, And nonetheless, like it's just what you did.
Yeah, as a dad, that's what you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
For you, Jaimie, there's a verse in James chapter 1 that always spoke to you before any of this happened. James 1, 2, and 3 talks about, facing trials of many kinds and develops perseverance and strength. Mm-hmm. How did that verse, those words impact you during such a challenging time?
So years ago, when I was doing Bible studies, and I remember it like a core memory. I remember where the sun was shining in the room and what was going on. And I was studying this verse, and the word trials hit me, that it was plural, not one. And I remember asking the Lord, and before that it says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds. So one, I was like, oh Lord, wait, what? We're gonna have more than one trial? Whatever the trials are, or trial, Lord, I pray that you just prepare me for when that time comes. And I'm thinking that trial, because I still was thinking like one big one, right, is going to be when I'm old. So when I'm old, please just prepare my heart. And then consider it pure joy. And I'm like, okay, Lord, well, whenever that trial comes, I pray that I'm able to have the joy through this trials or trial whenever that time comes. And later in the verse, I do remember praying like it says, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind. And I had seen people in my life kind of be like that through trials, and that frightened me. And I'm like, oh Lord, please let me be not like that. I want to be stable-minded when the time comes, and I'm claiming all these promises that you are saying in this verse over my life. So then now we're in a big trial, that verse was heavy on my mind and in my heart, that we are going to look and find and see the joy that the Lord has for us every day. And we absolutely did. When I look back, now like he said, that first week in the hospital, I have that same vision of darkness. Like all the memories, it seemed dark. It seemed like it was nighttime all day long. But then when I look back and my memories of our household, the light is shining, our kids were dancing and singing, and there was joy in our house all the time, like an unexplainable joy through this whole season.
That's amazing. It's amazing how God prepared you guys for that. Mm-hmm. Prepared Elijah, without you even realizing it. See, he goes through 3.5 years of chemo. What was the point that you kind of started to see the light at the end of the tunnel for his journey with cancer? I think at the
3.5 years was a relief when you get through that, but you still have to go through 5 years of maintenance. So you're still going through all this. I think at the 5 years, you feel like, okay, we're out of the woods, but I don't know if it goes away. I don't think it's something that ever leaves your mind. Honestly, when we were in that 3.5 years, you just get used to living with a pit in your stomach. That's the only way I can say it. Like you have this gnawing feeling in your stomach every day, and it becomes normal. You know what I mean? Because in a second's notice, he can pop a fever, and we're in Children's Hospital for who knows how long and what could happen. And so you just kind of got used to that. That became normal. Like that 2008 season, I don't know how I did. Honestly, I didn't do it. The Lord did it. Because there's no way anybody can, to be so physically taxing and play professional football is hard enough in itself. And to take care of a child with cancer is exhausting in itself. To do both, and I didn't miss one game, to do both is not, I honestly, I don't think it's humanly possible without the Lord. Like, that's the only thing that got me through that was my faith and the community that we had created to get through all that. I think that's it. But I don't know if you ever say, yeah, like he's playing college football now. Like, he's bigger than me now, like, and I feel good, and it doesn't cross my mind. But is it always?
Would he say he's better than you?
That's he would tell you he's better than me. He would tell you. I'd say no, but he would tell you, yeah.
So during that whole time, what were the biggest difference makers for you guys? Like, what were the things that just made such an impact?
I think through that period, I think the two things that made difference for us was, one, our faith. Our faith prepared us and had us ready. Like, I was telling her last night, you know, when we were at Children's, and this is the difference, I could tell if someone was a Christian. And I met them when you go on the 9th floor is all cancer parents. So it's everybody's dealing with the same, some different types of childhood cancers. When you met them in the lobby or something, I could almost tell you if they were Christian or not Christian without them even having a conversation with me about their faith. And here's the thing I tell people like this. So the Christians that I would meet, not that it was easy, but they had a joy that transcends this world and a hope that transcends the world. You could tell that there wasn't a good circumstance and it was hard, but they still had love and joy inside of them, even though that they were dealing with the hard things. The people that were non-Christians were just beat down, bitter, and angry. Like, it just took its toll on them. And you could just tell that just in the way that you had a conversation with them on a day-to-day basis. And that's because as Christians, we know we've already won the game. Like, I tell my children, guys, we're playing a game we already know the score to. So things that this world throws at us, they don't make a difference. Like, I know they're hard and they're tough, but we have a hope that's eternal. We know we've already had victory. So why are we worried about something that's going to destroy us at this point, you know? So I think that's that foundation in our faith, and then the community. The community was unbelievable that we created, well, she created, and I just got dragged into, but that really, the friends and the family and them rallying. You guys gotta understand this too. When we were in Pittsburgh, I'm from Colorado, she's from Colorado. We have nobody here but my mom to deal with this.
And still to this day, you're still close with a lot of those people, right?
Yeah, they're our best friends.
Yeah.
Like, we do things. We were blessed in this small group that she dragged me to, the one that I really didn't want to go to. It was the non-Pittsburgh Steeler one. And so when you're a Steeler, you're always kind of guarded with people. And so she drags me to this non-Pittsburgh Steeler one. And we get in there, and it's a couple that's 10 years older than us and a couple that's 20 years older than us, which actually worked out. I think God aligned us perfectly because we all were able to help each other in different aspects of our lives. Like, I could relate to their teenagers, but then they could tell us about small children, like all this stuff. And those friendships, those became our closest friends. And I think that community that we built early and that she dragged me to, like I said, but that's really what helped us through that time.
So as you walk through this with Elijah, you have now 4 other children eventually. Mm-hmm. How did that experience change how you parented moving forward? Because that has to be such a shift.
It changed me drastically. So when I was before Elijah got sick, my friends called me Ducky, right? And this is like, they joked because I always looked calm and cool on the surface, but my feet were always going 1,000,000 miles an hour. I was always worried about everything. And the kids laugh about it. My 20-year-olds now laugh that I wouldn't let them, when they were small, run in the grass because they might fall and get hurt. Or I wouldn't let them do this because they might get hurt, or they might get sick, or they might do. I was very, very controlling of my children, very overprotective as a parent. And so when he got sick, I realized I had no control. It really changed me drastically as a parent. And I think that's, for me, it changed me immensely. Like, I'm very much more easygoing than I ever was as a parent.
And then even like the germ thing, you would think like, oh, Elijah's going through chemo, his immune system is compromised. And we did take precautions with that, like, you know, making sure the kids washed their hands or changed their clothes when they came home, just to kind of protect him. But we could only protect him so much. Our 3 little girls at one point, and he was in the depths of chemo, they all got sick. So they all had like the flu in our house, and we didn't confined them to bedrooms. They were 3 little girls, and Elijah did not get sick. So we just saw God's protection. Like we could only do so much, and we had to surrender everything to the Lord. We had to surrender like his health, him being protected. There were so many times. Aaron got the swine flu during this time. Now we did make him stay in a bedroom, but Elijah didn't get sick. And then Elijah during chemo, went to the Super Bowl. He went to the Super Bowl that year.
He was on the field, right?
2008.
He was on the field. He was in a hotel. We were with the fans walking to our seats. We didn't have a separate room. We didn't get a suite. We were with the crowd. We were with the fans. And the doctors, before we left, they checked his blood, and they're like, yep, his immune system's good. His counts are good right now, which means he has enough of a strong immune system that we can go. So we went, and he was there celebrating on the field. So it was
Got a picture of him kissing the trophy on the field.
That has to be like
Yeah.
top moments.
Oh.
I mean,
So
after all you've walked through. Yeah.
yes. So we just realized like we could ask the Lord for help and surrender everything, because we could only do so much for him.
So we've been asking this question, what could Jesus do? How did that time change what you believe God for?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think you just, through that time, my faith grew immensely. Like I knew the Lord, but I would say my trust and faith in him to provide and deliver us just became to another level. And you become a little bit more utterly, until you're truly broken, and I think that's the sad thing, is when you're broken and you go to him, it changes you. And because then he delivers you and lifts you up, and you just see his love and his strength. I think my faith just grew immensely through that. There was one point, and it's funny, I remember when driving home, at one point where my faith was so much, when you were going through this trial, I remember thinking, Lord, this is the closest I've ever been to you. I don't ever want to lose this, but I don't want my son to continue to go through this trial. And I remember having that conflict while I was driving home with myself. Because when you get back to normalcy, you start to be distracted with all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I think I saw just how much, when I talk about how the Lord prepared us and prepared Elijah, just his grace and his love for us, that he aligned. So now when we go through stuff, I'm like, okay, I know that the Lord is preparing or has already prepared us for whatever in our children. Having adult children is harder than having little kids. And I say harder than having a kid go through cancer. It is tough, just surrendering all of that and so many things. But then I'm reminded of how much he prepared us beforehand. So much that, so Elijah so once he got diagnosed and was going through chemo, he wasn't allowed to go to the dentist to get his teeth cleaned. That bacteria could be released, and he had a port, so they didn't want bacteria to get to the port. And so that's why we always had to go to the hospital, was because of the port, the fever thing in the port. So when the port came out, that for me was a big relief. Like, okay, no more emergency hospital runs. But previous to Elijah getting diagnosed, he had a lot of anatomy, according to the dentist, in his teeth. And he had already had a cavity at a young age, maybe like 4, 3.5. And so the dentist said, you know what? I don't want this to be a thing before he loses all these baby teeth. I'm going to put sealant on all of his teeth, because it looks like we could be dealing with cavities for quite a while. And so guess what? His teeth, all that anatomy in those little teeth were sealed and covered and protected. And so we didn't even have to worry about, is he going to get a cavity?
This before any of that ever happened.
This was before he was diagnosed. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, you covered his teeth. You protected his teeth. Aaron's mom had lived here for 2 years, so she knew our babies. She knew our girls. She knew what they ate. She knew their personalities. So then when we were gone at the hospital, when we would leave in an instance, it wasn't like it was a grandma from Colorado coming, and the kids didn't really know grandma that well, and she knew their needs. She had been here for 2 years. He aligned our backyard with this little cottage that she was able to, I could go on for probably an hour of all the preparation that he did for us and had for us. So I am just reminded of the love that he
So cool.
has for us and the care that he takes for us.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. So if someone's here today watching online and they're really struggling, they're going through their own trials and they're all different, what would you say to them? What would you say to that person who's really going through their dark valley right now?
I would say pray. First pray. And honestly, I tell people this all the time. Like, when you're faced with trials and tribulations, be honest with God. He wants to hear, he wants to share, he wants to hear you. He wants to hear your voice. He already knows that you're angry. He already knows that you're bitter. He already knows everything you feel. He just wants you to share that with him in prayer. There's nothing wrong. It's funny. I mean, even Job, when Job went through it, Job asked him, Lord, why would you forsake me? Like, well, talk to him. He knows all. He wants to be part. He wants to share in your life. And then I would say after that, get some community. Get people around you that can lift you up and support you in your walk with Christ. And be there when you're in your lowest points and be there when you're in your highest points. Because guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, if you haven't, some of you have already faced them. If you haven't, trials are coming. And they're gonna if one's already over, another one's coming, guys. There's nothing in this world that tells you that this life is going to be easy. Even if you have Christ, it's not gonna be easy. So if you're not prepared in your faith and your walk, like, think about my marriage, right? And I'm gonna give you two stories, and this is why I'm here with my wife after 25 years of marriage, right? 80 professional athletes divorce rate, 80%. People with 6 children's divorce rate, 80%. So I have a double factor that my marriage should have collapsed. And I'm married to her for 25. I just celebrated 25 years. And thank you. But I'd like to say it was me. But I don't think it's me. I think it's our faith in what we have, Christ at the center of everything we do. And that's the foundation that our marriage has been built on, and that's the foundation that our lives have been built on. And without that foundation, when trials and tribulations come, it's going to crack. It is. I don't want it to crack on any of you, so that's what I would say.
And I so appreciate you guys taking time to talk, Ted. You guys are so easy to talk to, and it feels like just time goes quick.
I know, it goes
I
so
appreciate
fast.
that.
Thank you for having us.
But do you guys have any final thoughts? Anything else you want to share before we go?
I don't. When you were talking, it reminded me when he was saying, another thing, when you're going through trials, sometimes it's hard to just see the Word of God for what it is. And our community, during that time for us, they made scripture cards, and I put them everywhere in our house. I put them on every mirror, every window, in the bathroom cabinet. And that community of people knew us intimately, knew what our needs were. And so I could see whenever I was walking, I would see the Word of God. And I knew that it was alive and it was for me. And there were times when you're going through a trial, it's on your mind, it's on your heart. It doesn't go away, right? It's every second of your day. So to be able to see the Word of God wherever you're walking, wherever you're turning, I do feel like that was a huge part, and that came from the community, some of my closest friends who knew that was going to be a need. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So grateful for you guys taking time
Thank you.
and being here with us and sharing your story. And it's amazing to see what God has done and continue to do. I mean, your kids are grown now.
Yes.
Now they're the legacy of that. So it's so cool. Thank you for being with us.